Hello guys, welcome to my channel where stories filled with revenge, moral lessons, and love are told. Go ahead and like, share with your friends and subscribe. I pulled up to the driveway of my house far earlier than anyone expected. The tires crunched softly against the stones, and the tall iron gates closed behind me with a heavy clang. My life as a businessman had become a rhythm of flights, hotels, meetings, and polished smiles. But for the first time in weeks, I decided to come home without warning. I longed to see Noah, my 8-month-old boy, whose giggles were the only music capable of softening the hard edges of my days. As I stepped into the quiet living room, the scent of polished wood and faint detergent filled my nostrils. It felt odd, almost unsettling, how silent the house was. Usually Clara would be humming some old tune while bouncing Noah on her hip, or the television would be murmuring in the background. Today, there was nothing. Just the ticking of the clock on the far wall. I dropped my briefcase and loosened my tie, curiosity guiding me down the hall toward the laundry room. That was when I froze. My breath caught, sharp and cold, as my eyes locked onto a sight that twisted my stomach. Clara knelt beside the washing machine, and inside the gaping round mouth of the machine, I saw Noah. His small body was halfway lodged inside, little legs kicking, his chubby hands flailing in the air. "Clara!" I roared, the sound tearing out of me before I could think. My chest pounded, rage and horror flooding me like a tidal wave. She snapped her head up, her eyes wide, cheeks flushed with panic. She quickly pulled Noah back out and held him against her chest. "Mr. Cole, please, it's not what you think." My vision tunneled. All I could see was my son, vulnerable and fragile, nearly swallowed by a machine meant to chew and spin clothes. I surged forward and snatched Noah out of her arms, clutching him so tightly he whimpered. My hands shook as I checked him from head to toe. No bruises, no cuts, just startled eyes staring up at me. "What on earth were you doing?" My voice thundered, shaking with both fury and fear. "You put my son in a washing machine? Are you insane?" Tears welled in Clara's eyes as she shook her head furiously. "No, Adrian, I swear I didn't. Please listen. He crawled here by himself." He pulled on the edge and slipped halfway inside. I caught him immediately before anything happened. I was making faces at him so he wouldn't cry. I would never harm Noah. Never. But her words slid over me like water against stone. The images in my mind were louder than her explanations. My son spinning helplessly, drowning in soap and water, his cries muffled by the whirl. My jaw clenched, my stomach twisted. "You expect me to believe that?" My child was inside the machine. Inside Clara, her face crumpled. She stepped back, pressing her hands to her chest. "I love him, Mr. Cole. I love Noah as if he were mine. I'd give my life for him. Please believe me." I paced, rocking Noah in my arms as he began to squirm, reaching his tiny fingers toward Clara. That simple gesture was so innocent, so trusting, nearly broke me. Even in my rage, I saw the truth that complicated everything. My son trusted her. His little body leaned toward her, his eyes seeking her face. "Noah," I whispered, my voice hoarse. "What has she done to you?" Clara sniffed and wiped her cheeks. "Nothing, sir. He's safe. I would never forgive myself if he got hurt on my watch. He just slipped." I turned away, pressing my lips to Noah's soft head, inhaling the sweet baby scent that was both calming and agonizing. My heart still thundered with images of disaster. I wanted to scream, to fire her on the spot, to erase the sight I had just witnessed. Yet something held me back: Noah's outstretched arms, his stubborn desire to be close to her. "You should have been watching him more closely," I snapped, though my tone softened slightly. "Do you realize what could have happened?" "Yes," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I do. And I'll never forgive myself for letting him crawl that close. But I swear to you, he wasn't in danger. The machine isn't even plugged in." She gestured frantically to the wall, and only then did I notice the cord coiled neatly, unplugged from the socket. That fact should have eased me, but my emotions still churned. "Unplugged or not, it looked like you were putting him inside." Her lips trembled. "I understand why you thought that. I truly do. But please, Adrian, don't doubt my care for him. He means everything to me." Noah fussed in my arms, restless, whining, and again his little hands stretched toward Clara. Against my will, my heart softened a fraction. He wasn't afraid of her. He wasn't recoiling. Instead, he wanted her. My son's instincts were pure, untouched by suspicion or anger. They spoke louder than any words. I sighed heavily, running a hand down my face. I can't just shake this image, Clara. Do you know what it's like for a father to walk in and see his child like that? To feel, even for a second, that he might be losing him? She nodded, tears streaking down her cheeks. I can only imagine. But please know, I'd never let that happen. Silence settled between us, thick and uneasy. Noah pressed his face into my shirt, then peeked up, babbling something incoherent, breaking the intensity with his innocent little sounds. I rocked him gently, still breathing unevenly, still caught between fury and reluctant trust. In that moment, I realized something harsh and undeniable. I was more of a guest in my own son's life than a father. I was always away, always chasing business deals while Clara became the one who witnessed his first giggles, his crawling, his little triumphs. That truth cut deep, almost as painful as the fear I had just felt. But admitting it was another matter. So I stood there, silent, clutching Noah, battling emotions I didn't want to name, while Clara watched me with desperate, pleading eyes. Noah eventually drifted off in my arms, his small body warm against my chest, his thumb tucked between his lips. His steady breathing calmed the storm inside me, though the sight of the washing machine still haunted my mind. Clara stood a few feet away, wringing her hands as though waiting for a verdict. The silence pressed on both of us until it felt unbearable. Sit, I finally muttered, nodding toward the dining table. My voice was strained, clipped, but no longer roaring with rage. Clara hesitated before pulling out a chair. I carefully laid Noah in his crib nearby, adjusting the blanket beneath his chin, then sat opposite her, folding my arms tightly across my chest. You have to tell me everything, I said, forcing myself to keep my tone even. From the moment I left this house today until the second I walked in. She nodded quickly, her eyes locked on mine, voice trembling as she spoke. He had just woken from his nap. I gave him his bottle, changed him, and he was playing on the mat. I was folding laundry, only a few steps away. He crawled faster than I expected straight toward the washing machine. I turned when I heard him giggling. He pulled himself up on the rim, lost his balance, and slid forward. I grabbed him instantly, I swear. He was never fully inside. He wasn't hurt. I started making silly faces to distract him so he wouldn't cry, and that's the moment you saw. Her words tumbled out desperately, but there was something steady in her eyes, a sincerity that pressed against my anger. My fists tightened in my lap. Do you understand what it looked like? What it felt like for me to see that? Clara's gaze fell. Yes, I know. And I'm sorry. You don't deserve to ever see your child in a position that could frighten you like that. I should have anticipated it, and should have kept him further from the laundry area. That's my failure. For a long moment, I didn't speak. The clock ticked loudly behind me, each second echoing the debate in my mind. Part of me still wanted to scream, to send her packing immediately. But another part, the quieter part that observed Noah's affection for her, whispered that this woman had been more than a maid. She had been his comfort, his companion, his guardian when I wasn't here. I rubbed my temples, letting out a rough sigh. Clara, do you know why I came home today? She blinked, confused. No, sir. Because I missed him, I admitted, my voice lower, rawer than I intended. I miss my boy. And yet when I walked in, all I felt was how absent I've been. It hit me harder than I thought. Her eyes softened, though she said nothing. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling for a moment before continuing. Every day I tell myself I'm doing this for him, for Noah. That the meetings, the trips, the endless hours are so he'll never lack anything. But then I come home, and he reaches for you instead of me. Do you have any idea how that feels? Clara's lips parted, then pressed shut. She nodded slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. Yes, because I see it. He loves you, Mr. Cole. He lights up when you're here, but children know who is consistently present. They gravitate toward that presence. It's not rejection, it's need. Her words sliced me deeper than any insult could. Need. My son needed me, and I hadn't been here. My chest ached with the weight of guilt pressing down. I remembered the first time Noah laughed. Clara had recorded it on her phone and sent it to me while I sat in a hotel boardroom across the ocean. I remembered his first attempts at crawling, captured in grainy video clips she shared while I was stuck at another late-night dinner meeting. Clara had witnessed milestones that should have been mine to see firsthand, and I had convinced myself that money and security made up for it. I dropped my head into my hands. God, what kind of father am I? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Clara's chair scraped softly as she stood and stepped closer. A father who still has a chance, she said gently. You're here now? And Noah doesn't need perfection, Adrian. He just needs you, your time, your attention, not just your money. Her tone wasn't accusing. It wasn't bitter. It was an honest, simple truth. I looked up at her, and at that moment I didn't see just the maid. I saw the woman who had become the backbone of my son's world, who had filled the void I created with my absence. I hated admitting it, but I knew it was true. Do you resent me? I asked quietly. She shook her head. No, I understand why you work so hard. But sometimes I wish you saw what I see, the way Noah looks for you when he hears footsteps, the way he babbles as if he's calling your name. He needs his father, Adrian, more than he'll ever need toys or designer clothes or a fancy house. Her words clung to me long after she stepped back. I leaned against the crib, watching Noah's tiny chest rise and fall as he slept peacefully. His innocence mocked me, his unconditional love both forgiving and demanding. I reached down and brushed my hand across his soft hair. I almost lost him once already, I whispered. I can't let my own distance take him from me too. Clara said nothing more, only returned to tidying the laundry room quietly, giving me space with my thoughts. Yet every gesture she made, the careful folding of clothes, the way she glanced at the crib reminded me that she had carried responsibilities I had dropped. And she hadn't complained. She had just loved him. That night, long after the house settled into silence, I lay awake in my room. I thought about the empire I had built, the endless zeros in my accounts, the applause of investors, the respect of strangers. All of it seemed meaningless compared to the way Noah's tiny fingers curled around mine. The next morning, I rose earlier than usual. Instead of slipping out with my suitcase, I walked into the kitchen where Clara was preparing a bottle. She looked startled when I said, I'll feed him this morning. You sit down. Her eyes widened, but she handed me the bottle without protest. And when Noah stirred awake and reached for me instead of her, just for that one moment, the look of surprise and joy on Clara's face said everything. The morning light streamed through the nursery curtains, painting soft golden stripes across the crib where Noah stirred. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't rushing for an early flight or checking my phone for urgent messages. Instead, I leaned over, scooped my son into my arms, and let his small giggle wash over me. His joy was so simple, so pure it made everything else in the world seem trivial. Clara stepped into the room quietly, her apron tied neatly around her waist, her hair pulled back in its usual practical bun. She paused when she saw me cradling Noah with the bottle already half finished in his hands. A gentle smile touched her lips, though she didn't say a word. I cleared my throat, still awkward in this unfamiliar role. He drank almost all of it. Guess I didn't do too badly. You did well, she said softly, her voice carrying both relief and approval. Noah reached one hand toward her, babbling, but when I shifted him higher against my chest, he stayed. That tiny choice made my heart swell. For so long, I had assumed Noah's affection belonged only to Clara, because she was always there when I wasn't. But now, with just a little effort, I saw how quickly he leaned toward me, how ready he was to let me in if only I made room for him. I looked at Clara then, truly looked at her, beyond the uniform and her role in this house. She had been more than an employee. She had been the steady presence, the one who filled my absence without complaint. And though last night I had been ready to tear everything apart in anger, today I saw her differently. Clara, I said carefully, I owe you an apology. She blinked, startled. Sir, I judged you unfairly. I let my fear twist the truth. When I saw Noah near that washing machine, I assumed the worst. I let anger blind me to what I should have known all along, that you care for him. More than just care. You love him. Tears shimmered in her eyes, but she held them back. I do. With all my heart. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. And for that, I should be grateful instead of suspicious. I was so quick to accuse, but the truth is you've been there for him in ways I haven't. That's hard for me to admit, but it's real. Her shoulders eased, a slow exhale leaving her chest as though she had carried the weight of my distrust for too long. Thank you for saying that, she whispered. It means more than you know. The day unfolded in unfamiliar rhythms for me. Instead of retreating into my office or rushing out the door, I lingered. I sat on the floor and let Noah crawl over my legs, tugging at my tie until Clara laughed softly from the doorway. I followed them into the park later that afternoon, pushing the stroller myself, watching the way other fathers casually lifted their children and realized how much I had been missing. When we returned home, I stayed in the kitchen while Clara cooked. "You don't have to," she said when I reached for the cutting board, but I insisted. We worked side by side, not as employer and maid, but as two people bound by the care of one child. At dinner, I spoon-fed Noah while Clara sat across from us, smiling as though seeing a miracle. And maybe it was. Not the grand kind, but the quiet kind that changes a life in ways money never can. Later, after Noah drifted into sleep, I found Clara in the hallway. "I don't want to keep living like this," I told her honestly. "Always absent, always coming home to regret what I've missed. He deserves a father who's present. And you," I paused, my voice low with sincerity, "you deserve my trust. You've earned it many times over." Her eyes glistened again, though she didn't reply at first. Then she nodded firmly. "Then be here. Not just tonight, not just tomorrow. Be here, Adrian. That's all he needs." Her words were simple, but they sank deep. I realized then that fatherhood wasn't about grand gestures or endless wealth, it was about presence. About being the arms he reached for when he stumbled, the voice he heard when he woke in the night, the face that cheered his first steps. That night, I stayed by Noah's crib until his steady breathing lulled me into calm. Clara passed by the doorway, glanced in, and smiled softly before disappearing down the hall. For the first time in a long time, the house didn't feel like a place I merely owned. It felt like a home. And I vowed to never let fear, pride, or absence steal that from me again. Moral lesson: life often blinds us with wealth, ambition, and the restless pursuit of success. We convince ourselves that providing material comfort is enough, forgetting that the deepest needs of those we love are rarely material. Children do not remember the size of a house or the brand of their clothes. They remember laughter, arms that held them, eyes that lit up at their smallest victories. When fear or misunderstanding blinds us, it is easy to misjudge the very people who stand in the gap for us, who carry burdens we never see. Trust is fragile, but it grows stronger when we recognize love expressed in quiet sacrifices. Adrian's story is not about a maid or a millionaire. It is about learning that presence is the greatest gift a parent can offer. It is about humility, about seeing beyond suspicion, and about honoring those who care alongside us. So, my dear listeners, let this be your reminder. Love is measured in time given, not money earned. Don't wait until fear shakes you to see the truth. Be present now, while those who need you are still reaching for you. Like this video, subscribe, share with friends, and comment on the lesson you've learned.